Oakley dokley, folks. Welcome back for another few wacky words from me in Toomertown. Your old buddy Bruce here. Today I'm just kind of gonna throw out a few little weird thought experiments for you. Just something to play with. So, something that I have thought about off and on throughout my adult life is human language. Now, I wonder in my mind, what would have been back in the millennia before, what would have been the single word that would have been so important that it would have been the very first word that a group of humans came up with to start their language. What would have been that word? What would have been so important? What could it be? What would it be? And maybe not important, maybe just something that would be natural. But it's a curious thought experiment. What would that word be? Another thought experiment is the original, I think it's called original intent, but I can't remember precisely. It's a thought experiment that involves you, and you can do it with other people too, thinking about setting up a society, right? Original position, I'm sorry, is what it's called. And, you've got all the basic people in that society, right? I've got, firefighters, handicapped people, I've got lawyers, doctors, laborers, black people, white people, Asian people, gay people, all these sorts of people. I've got this whole mix, just like I have in the world today. I've got this whole mix of people. And I've got to design the society and how it works, what the basic rules of law are, what how the society thinks about things, feels about certain issues, so forth and so on. And you have to do this without knowing what your position in that world is. You don't know. You don't know what you are. You don't know if you are a poor migrant farmer, or if you are a rich industrialist, or if you're a geek scientist. You don't know. But you have to figure out how you would design that world to work. And it's an interesting thought experiment, simply because when people do this, it seems, you tend to think about things from a different point of view because you don't know who you might be in that world. And so you might think, well, things you might not be in favor of today in this modern world, you might be in favor of in that one because it might be to your benefit depending on who you happen to be in that world. So it's a very interesting thought experiment, to go through and spend a little bit of time at. Another one is what they call a philosophical truth, that all actions of human beings are driven by two motivations. One, to increase happiness, and two, decrease suffering. And that's physical, emotional suffering, whatever kind of suffering. Now, it's an interesting experiment to go through a week and look at all of the things you do and the decisions you make and see where they fall on that scale, right? Did you do that because it increased your happiness? Did you do that because it increased your or decreased your suffering? Why did you do that? Was there a balance in there? It kind of was a little bit of both, or it was neutral, it didn't do either. Did you do anything during the week that was altruistic, that actually decreased your level of happiness and increased your level of suffering, but you did it for the benefit of somebody else because you wanted to, right? An altruistic act. I mean, it's interesting to go through a week and just kind of log those things up and think about them and see where you fall on that particular scale. Because it's a curious thing. You know, when I did it, I was like, wow, I was very surprised just how many times my decisions were purely based on those two things, without a doubt. You know, very interesting, very weird. But it's a curious thing to do. And so I'll come back to my very first idea of what would be the word that would be the first one that someone would create in a language. And I'll tell you what I came up with. Run! That's what I came up with. I figure, you know, you're a group of hunter-gatherers out there. You're not the big dog on the block, right? Big tigers and lions, you know, big monster like hippopotamus, or not rhinos, you know, bears, all these sorts of things are competing with you as the big dog, you know, go get 'em hunter thing. So, you know, maybe the best word is, you know, wherever anybody is, just to make sure if somebody sees something bad happening, run, and everybody knows, just drop what you're doing and haul buggy. Circle back later and see what the heck it was. But don't stick around. Something bad is coming, and it's coming fast. That's just me. Now, you know, that probably is a stupid idea, but you never know, right? I mean, I would love to have been there back in time to see just how these things, you know, came about, how the first word came about, how they did fire, all those things. It would all have been very interesting, but that's just the deal. So that's just a quick little throwaway, you know, and that's probably my last little video before I go to the hospital. So you may not see another video upload for maybe a couple weeks, but I'll make sure to do some videos when I get home and keep going from there, because I got a lot. We're only scratching the surface of the weird thoughts I have about the world around me, and they're going to get really interesting as we go along. So I hope you'll stick along for the ride, and I hope I live long enough to give them all to you, because I think you'll find them somewhat illuminating and at least interesting and thought-provoking, if nothing else. All right. Thanks, everybody. Peace, and hang 10.